The church at that time, you know, we talk about many things, and oh, we need this and we need that, and we have mass communication, and we have radio, and we have television, and we have God TV, and we have the same thing in Spanish. It's called Enlace, 24 hours of singing and preaching all over Latin America and all this stuff. But you know, we are so far away from what the early church had. It's pitiful. Now, one thing they did have, they had sanctification, and they had consecration. They were set apart from, and they were set apart for. Okay? When Ananias and Sapphira stepped out from under the authority of God, God said, this has to be stopped now because it will contaminate what I'm doing. Okay, so they were taken out. So true power in the church is established through true submission to authority. So in all the areas where God is working, we must submit ourselves. We have to submit ourselves in our jobs. We have to submit ourselves to the laws of the land. Let me tell you something. If you are a Christian and you are working, you must pay taxes. There is nothing in the Word of God that lets you get around paying taxes. It might not be God's law in your way of thinking, but let me tell you what. It's what God has allowed to exist as part of the law of this land and all the other countries in the world. So if you're a Christian and you think you can work and not pay taxes, and God is going to help you, and you're going to get around it, and God's going to do something so the government just overlooks you, you got another thing coming. Uncle Sam will catch you one day in 7-Eleven. Somebody will stick their finger through the belt loop on your jeans, and you've had it. Okay? Ask anybody who's done it. Because all the ones that have done it have always got caught. God is looking to establish His authority. Okay. God is looking to establish His authority in the home. You know, everything that we see that is trying to, that the devil is trying to tear down is authority that God has established. You know, when they took God out of the public school, when they're trying to eliminate God completely from anything that's public. I don't know if you understand that. There's a country song that talks about singing Christmas carols and you go to jail. And it's a satire song, but it's talking about all the stupid stuff that's happening in the United States. Spill a cup of coffee, win $1 million, sing Christmas carols, and you go to jail, and all this other stuff. And it's true. I'm not about the cup of coffee, but I'm talking about the Christmas carol thing. Everything that the enemy is doing is he's trying to eliminate God from any public arena. Trying to take the 10 Commandments out of a court building. Eliminate prayer from public schools. You can't do this. You can't put up a nativity scene. You can't do that. Many people now even protest the flying of the American flag. You know, all these things. And what is the goal of the enemy through doing this? He's trying to destroy the authority of God in all the areas. Okay. Well, we know what it's done to the schools. And as a result of what it's done to the schools, we know what it's done to the young people that are in the schools. Okay. You ask your, most of you folks obviously are older than I am. And so y'all know how it was when you were in school, when they hadn't taken God out of the school yet, how things were different. Back then you got in trouble for speaking out of turn or chewing gum or something like that. Now they're taking guns to school and popping each other. So things have changed a lot in the last 40 years. But everything that the enemy is doing is to take the authority of God out of our lives. Okay. So now, what do we need to do? Well, when we're talking about anything that God's trying to do, we always have to start with the individual level. And so we always have to look at our own life and say, what are the areas of my life where I'm not allowing the authority of God to work? What are the areas of my life that are out of control? What are the areas of my life where I still have bad habits? What are the areas of my life where I do not submit to authority? You know, even in the church setting, sometimes we might be tempted to rebel against the order that God has established in a local church. And let me tell you, if there's bad authority in a church, God will eventually get it out. You know, who is the head of the church after all?
Jesus.
You think Jesus loses control? You know, oh no, there's a bad pastor down there, I don't know what to do, you know, and he sits and thinks, he sits up all night worrying about it. No, Jesus is the head of the church, and when bad authority gets into a church, he will take care of it eventually in his way. Now, he is long-suffering and merciful, and it might go on a lot longer than we think it should, but that's because God is merciful, and he is speaking to that person's heart, and he's trying to get them to turn. But if they don't, eventually, if they continue to abuse people and abuse the authority of God, and misuse it, God will get them out. Okay? But during the meantime, God has called us in the local setting to submit to the local authorities that God has established in our life. It's the same thing that I mentioned last time. When it says that children are to obey their parents, it doesn't say children obey your parents if they're great. You know, it doesn't say that. Children obey your parents if they give you a $50 allowance every week. You know, that would be cool. Children obey your parents if they're always smiling and happy. You know? Children obey your parents if they never speak harsh words to you. You know, if all those clauses were put in, you know, we got all these amendments to the Constitution, the amendments to the commandments of God, you know, that's what a lot of people in church try to create, the amendments to the commandments. All these loopholes that let you disobey God and you still feel good about it. Well, see, there's no loopholes in obedience. There's no loopholes in the authority of God. You either obey or you're in rebellion. That's all there is to it. That's the only way God looks at it. So when he tells children to obey your parents, he doesn't give them any choices. He doesn't say, if you like your parents, obey them. He says, obey your parents. Okay? Now the same thing. Y'all forgive me. Wives, submit to your husbands. He doesn't say, wives, submit to your husbands if they look like Tom Cruise, okay? Or whoever your favorite is, whoever makes you get down on your knees and kiss the television screen, you know. He doesn't say that. He says, wives, submit to your husbands.